Hi, welcome to Biz Pointz TV, created and presented by the Kortkamp Group. During each episode, we'll be introducing you to popular and trending topics, technology, unique businesses, and of course the people that are helping all of us in the small business community. I'm your host, I'm Larry Kortkamp, and today I'd like to welcome our guest, Maria Scarmardo.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Maria. How are you today?
Doing well.
Create a stronger and more dynamic business. Larry Kortkamp, founding partner at the Kortkamp Group, talks with industry insiders about trending topics moving the needle, or not, for local business today. Here's your host, Larry Kortkamp.
Maria is a cybersecurity expert for small business.
That. Yes, I like that.
Yeah?
I like to say it that way.
So, enlighten us. Cybersecurity expert, what does that actually mean?
Well, for small business, it really means a lot of, we get on my soapbox of policies, procedures, and really keeping the company safe and so it can grow as it matures and have a really good framework, a security framework. So as it grows, it could just be one less thing for the business to worry about.
Technology is a passion of mine. I like integrating technology into small business. And when you talk about systems or processes, that's exactly what we try and teach people, because so many of the things that can make them better or more secure actually are quite simplistic, and they don't. What's the big phrase you hear a lot from people when it talks about cybersecurity? It's too expensive.
It's very expensive. It's not as expensive because really it's technology, but security is also, it's technology plus how to use it to secure the business itself. And when I say the most inexpensive part of it is the people part of it. And that is the framework that you can start off with, which is, again, the policies and the procedures.
Okay, so if we went through let's just go through like a step-by-step, maybe for a small business. If we were going to target the first maybe 5 or 6 key points that a business needs to do to make themselves more secure from the get-go, what would be the first thing that we'd like to try and get a small business to do?
What you want to do with the small business when it's first starting is literally sitting down and just like they're doing their business plan of how their business is going to run, the finances, the taxes, security being that one, and saying what are business practices where, A, B, C, D, and then seeing where you could be vulnerable, things as simple as where do you keep your password, in the business? Who's going to have access to this? Just like you don't want them to have access to financials, you don't want, access to a lot of even the technology that's within the business.
Well, the access to the password really isn't a big problem because everybody's password is password, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yes, which is one of the biggest problems that we're having in the industry.
Okay, so you mentioned passwords. Passwords are unique. Everybody's got the same one. Password, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So what makes a good password that's reliable but easy to remember?
So what I like to tell people is to make a phrase that they'll remember, and it's long, 4 to 6 words, and interject some of the characters and replace some of the letters for characters, and then they can remember it, because that's what trips everybody up, is that...
It does, and I have sympathy as a consultant talking about this to small businesses. Small businesses sometimes have turnover, and they'll have an employee that might only be there for weeks or several months, and when someone leaves, that's one of the downsides, is whatever that employee's learned, you have to change. So
who knew that a disgruntled employee is going to cause so much havoc on cybersecurity? But it really does. It's not just the passwords, but it's also everything that comes, all the access they had inside the company that they can now get into. But for an employee, back to the password situation, doing a phrase will alleviate so many of their problems, because it's just, they'll be able to remember it.
Now, we've all heard 90 days is a good rotation for passwords. Is that true? Do we need to do that, or?
Absolutely true. Yeah. Absolutely true. It's passwords. There's password crackers that are just out there getting out passwords and trying to figure them out all the time. And the more you change it, the least likely it is for your password. That's Hacker 101 is let's crack a password. So
okay, so when we talk about systems and processes, what's the first systems or process that you're thinking of as far as what we have to put in place for a business? What's one of the basic things that you want them to try and do?
Make policies and procedures and stick to them.
A policy being what? How to open an email, or?
So policies. It's really, it's not just what emails to open. So that we'll get into the whole employee, awareness training into that. Constantly being aware of things. But as far as the policies and the procedures, it's changing the password, every 9 days and making sure people adhere to it, because we all know that companies have that policy. How many people do you know in the company that adhere to it? Not many. Not many.
So, which brings us to another point. How do we manage that? How do we make sure they are following the policies and procedures?
So, in the small business, traditionally, most of the tools I'm about to talk about are industry for enterprise level in general. But for small businesses, now there are tons of tools to help you with your signature. There are, like with my company, I offer awareness training, and part of the awareness training, even if it's a small business of 3 people, there's somebody who is a privacy officer, or I'm their privacy officer as them being my client, and I have a tool where I monitor that, and I can see it, and I can go, hey, you need to log into this, and those tools are now incredibly inexpensive.
Okay, you mentioned you were the privacy or the third party. I find a lot of people get fearful that bringing in outside help is another killer as far as cost is concerned, and I always try and take that concern away from them, that those helpful people are not always as expensive as you think they are, and they're very useful.
So I don't like using scare tactics for this at all, but again, my passion being having a small business thrive, having a problem in their security or any kind of cyber incident for them could kill the business before it even starts. Because now all of the compliances, all of the regulations saying you have to report all of it, you have to tell your employees, your customers, any of this, and that there goes your reputation. How much is that worth? There goes a lot of money. The ransomwares, they're hitting all the small businesses, even a 2-person shop that makes, let's say $30,000 a month, they'll take some information or do whatever they need to do.
No, that's an important point. A lot of people say, I'm too small, nobody's going to worry about me. They fail to realize that over 65% of the attacks today are targeted towards small businesses.
And there's a reason for that. Because with the enterprise level, with the big companies, it takes a lot of time. They have to have what's called spear phishing, and a lot of watching and waiting and really looking at a system and targeting it just right to get that big payout. If you can hit 100 small businesses for $2,000 each in 2 days, you're golden. You can just walk away and go to the next set of small businesses.
And people say, well, I don't even want to pay the ransom because then I'm still not going to get the stuff back. Unfortunately, I found a lot of those people are actually quite honorable about it. They just want your money and then they move on. But you don't want to be in that spot in the first place. And if you take some of these precautions that you're talking about, it could have been prevented if they had a good backup system, right? Something that they could restore back prior to whatever this encouragement was that they did. So that's another segment we're going to talk about.
So I did want to go back for just one moment as far as how honorable the people that installed the ransomware
I said
is.
that with great humor and
Actually,
didn't mean it at all.
I do mean it. You are going to be surprised. I have a speaker series where I kind of bring the community together, and that's one thing that we talk about. I talked to a lot of people that have been hit, and they said they have a customer service for it. They literally have hacker customer service. How do I get they have an operator that walks you through how to make your payment and how to get your information back. So they are actually, they just want to make, this is their small business too. Let's hit somebody, get a few grand, move on.
Don't start that as a small business. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. How about, we were just getting ready to talk about one subject, but it actually occurred to me now, based on the industry that you're in, you might have different certifications, you might have different things that you have to do as a small business. And you and I were talking about that recently, the state of Texas in particular.
Yes, absolutely.
This year has made huge moves towards certain...
It's not just this year. What's going to come down even in 2020 and what's coming down the line there is going to be a game changer from small business to big business.
This is a big point, and we're getting ready to take a quick break. So when we come back, I'd like to start off by talking about some of those changes that are getting ready to do. For right now, we're just going to take a quick break. Here's some words from our sponsors, those wonderful people that pay our bills, and we'll see you in a little bit when we get back.
We'll be right back with more Biz Pointz featuring Larry Kortkamp after these messages.
The American business economy is positioned as it has never been before. Professional videography is a core element for attracting a higher level of engagement with the people group you need for significant impact. Now is your time to shine. My name is Bill Brock, owner of White Rock Films, and I invite you to a powerful opportunity in the marketplace, an opportunity to draw excited people to your events, an opportunity to showcase your ideas on infrastructure, an opportunity to become known as the industry authority and enjoy the associated benefits of a strong, influential brand. Video highlights, video teaches. Video puts a resistant market at ease, and video stirs the hearts and imaginations of your allies and strategic client base. White Rock Films offers full audio, video production for businesses ready to embrace the future, handling your project with professionalism, experience, and polish unheard of in the industry. My name is Bill Brock, and White Rock Films wants your business. See us online at whiterockfilms.com.
Hi, welcome back to Biz Pointz. We were talking with Maria Scarmardo, and she's a cybersecurity expert. We were just getting involved in some of the new regulations that are being handed out by the state of Texas. Actually, many states throughout the country are imposing new regulations and restrictions on cybersecurity and small business. Before we get into that just a little bit, Maria, you're in a unique experience for a female in the business. It's a kind of a heavy industry for males and men out there. How did you get involved in cybersecurity?
In cybersecurity, it is really, I don't like to say by chance. It's kind of funny that we're talking about it on this show because it was dealing with small businesses, and I was looking at startups and small businesses and fell into VITECH and what they were doing and really liking what they were doing and got involved in it. And the next thing I know, here I am and getting my privacy certifications myself and got very passionate about, again, helping small businesses, business in America in general, in having it survive.
I know you're passionate about it. You're often in Austin, our state capital for Texas, hearing about new regulations or hearing how they're directing different legislation. So again, getting back to what we were going to talk about, which is our new legislation on security. Is there any things that you can bring to
Yes, for small business in particular, what I don't think that people are aware of, some of the House bills that passed, and please don't ask me today of all days what the House bill number is, because I'd have to go back into my notebook. But the House bill, that one in particular is important for all businesses because it's, if you as a small business have 250 employees, I keep saying employees, but clients that were affected by anything, whether it be ransomware or it just, one of your laptops that you use, remotely gets compromised, anything where 250 Texas residents were affected, you have to report that to the Attorney General, no matter what size business you are.
Okay, that's a big thing. People don't realize 250.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. That's every business that's out there. Think about it if you're just running a retail shop. Over the course of a year, having 250 people walk through your door is not unusual. You're going to have that.
And one thing with retail that that I like to talk about is that they're like, well, what kind of information do we have? And really we're talking about birthdays and email address, anything that creates, a profile of somebody. And do a lot of retail shops do newsletters? Or do your birthday, you get a special something, but you have that newsletter, and so you start collecting information from people, and that is their privacy. Again, if you do business, even here in Texas, and you do business with anybody in California, have any California resident information, then you are now under the CCPA, which is their Consumer Privacy Act for California, and they are allowed, anybody who has their information, they're allowed to ask when and to get it deleted.
And that's what we just consider a normal, everyday brick and mortar business, but when we get into specialized industries such as healthcare industry or financial,
those are a whole other ballgame of compliances and regulations that you have to be in.
And those get very, very complicated.
Yes.
And the
it's like,
the penalties are very extreme that people don't realize.
The penalties are getting more and more extreme. I've had this debate with a lot of people where they say, well, that fine is so much less than actually having to do the work to become secure or compliant. And unfortunately, because of that mentality, everything's doing a whole switch. The penalties are getting higher and more difficult kind of skirt around.
So we kind of touched on a little bit of the ransomware and the hackers, and a lot of that, including the regulations now, kind of revolve a little bit about data and storage, keeping data, how we manage our data, how we back it up, how we restore it. And I know that's one area that you concentrate on a lot as well.
I do, and again, we could probably go into a million rabbit holes with how to go about that. I know you and I spoke about, and there's a lot of debate whether to keep it, on location or put it on the cloud, and what cloud is safe and what cloud isn't safe. And again, I liken that to people that want to do their own taxes, or do you get, help? Even if you're paying for Quicken, like it's so much information and so many regulations that you get help to navigate through that. And that's why it's important to have somebody there to help you as well. But to answer those questions, it depends. You'd have to ask the business what kind of information, where are we doing with this data? And again, it's right now there's so many products out there and so many services that are so affordable for the small business to do their backups, to hold their data securely and to do the backups the right way that weren't there before, even a year ago.
How about, we talk about disaster recovery, and you and I really didn't touch on that much, but disaster recovery, people think about disasters, hurricanes or whatever, but today it can be a lot of different things. We just had a tornado come through here. We have water pipes break. We have any number of things that can put you out of your business for a period of time. So a lot of people don't understand how important a good disaster recovery plan is.
And again, that should be within your policies and procedures and where that fits in, and you have to have a disaster recovery plan, because you think about it, you're out of business for 2 weeks or a week or however long it is to recover from data information loss. And so you're 100% right, having that backup to be able to be back up and running in hours instead of days and weeks.
So are there any other hot points that we need to talk about on the systems and processes side as far as how somebody actually approaches that? Are there, do you provide blueprints or good guidelines as to how that happens?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I would lie and say I don't, but no, I absolutely do. And again, it's the small business being a passion of mine. Kind of getting in there, and there is no real turnkey solution as far as cybersecurity. It's really, hey, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and then creating a plan for them and growing with them. So I like to create relationships.
Maria, a lot of small businesses trying to be cost conscious, trying to save money, they have a tendency to piecemeal things together, put different solutions together that don't necessarily work well together. And in fact, they actually create more problems than they solve, which is why I actually encourage them to get outside help, some sort of guidance, whether it be a single person or maybe a group like an MSP. And we say MSP, but that's a managed service provider, right? And there is a difference in the industry for your designation because it adds the extra S. MSSP,
yes, because
that's security, and that's what you do. So,
and it's important for small businesses to note that if they either their IT is managed by them, and piecemealing together, they do obviously need help with that security piece. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with their family member that knows a lot about technology to run, their stuff. They just don't know security. Just like even a managed service provider, they are really good at managing, your IT, but IT and security are two very different things. And the small business as the client needs to be aware of that.
And I think that's a very important point. This isn't too often in business we see their friend, their brother, their Uncle Harry, or their neighbor's Uncle Harry that has to do that. And bad help is worse than no help at all.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
They need to be conscious about it, not scared about it, but they need to ask. And if they don't know, they need to ask people that do know.
Yes.
And that's like your firm that does that.
And there is, it's a great time for small businesses to start looking for that, because where before that wasn't available to them, it's now growing to be an issue. And so now, people are coming up to the plate to help the small businesses.
Well, sadly, this conversation could go on for a long period of time, but we don't have any more time today. So thank you, Maria, for coming by. And
thank you for having me.
Shedding some light on a complex situation. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in today. As usual, we have been brought to you today by the OBBM network. That's Offbeat Business Media Network. Please download their app, so that you can get access to not only this program, but many other programs that are designed strictly for you as a small business. Thanks again for watching, and we hope you join us the next time.
You've been enjoying Biz Pointz with Larry Kortkamp, brought to you by the Kortkamp Group. To be a guest or request sponsorship information, contact the Kortkamp Group at 972-824-8002 today. Production and programming information requests for the OBBM network should be directed to Offbeat Business Media by calling 214-714-0495 or send your request to info@offbeatbusiness.com. Biz Pointz TV, podcast, and radio show are produced by Offbeat Business Media for the OBBM network. Unauthorized use of logos, audio, video, or reproduction is strictly prohibited.